Hello everybody. This video is sponsored by a contribution from Sarah, and this is what she wants you to know. This is a long one. Hi Ollie, I happened upon your channel a few months ago and I'm really enjoying listening to your videos. I love your approach. You say it how it is and you don't sugarcoat it. Plus I believe your channel is helping others more than you probably realize. You have the knowledge of narcissism, including projection, gaslighting, and all it entails. I have been through a lot of stages in dealing with narcissistic abuse, and I found your channel not really what narcissism is, but how to deal with it. I may be further along than others, so you may be sharing my story with my story. Others will realize there is a life past all this bullshit and that you can enjoy living once again. My life is far from being where I want it to be, but looking back just 6 years, I'm amazed how far I've come. I know I don't have it as bad as others, but hoping this will help someone out there. Again, do not compare your stories to other people. I hate it when people do that, but I understand why you do it. I have a few stories, but instead of writing a full-blown book, which I have considered, instead I'm going to focus on being raised by a narcissistic mother and enabling father. I am 43 years old. To start out, I had an awful eating disorder from age 15 to 24. I was enmeshed with the disease, and it was truly my drug of choice. I don't remember a lot due to this. I went to counseling, and it was suggested for my parents to meet for a group session. My mother screamed at the counselor, "Don't you dare tell me how to raise my daughter." I was 19 when this occurred. Well, at 19, you're already raised, but whatever. I dropped counseling a few months later. I grew up in a very religious family structure where you just look to God for help, have faith, and it stops there. It is people like you, Ollie, who give the tools to continue on. Religious or not, people need the tools and resources in addition to learning on God and their higher power. My parents didn't cuss at me, so at least that way it wasn't quite as bad, I guess. I had been told all my life what to think, and I didn't realize until I left for college that I had no opinion of anything. I had always been told what to do and obeyed that. The honor your father and mother was shoved down my throat. I am the oldest of three children and the only female. I'm not the girl that my mother had hoped for physically, and she made that known to me. I'm 5'7", and she was always hoping for a 5'2" blonde. As an example, my sister-in-law was in labor for over 24 hours, and my mom could talk about how cute the nurse was and how she was a petite blonde, etc. That is how she was my entire life. She would focus on the cute teacher, coach, etc. Maybe my mother had something for pretty blondes. LOL, I don't know, don't care. And maybe your mother's like part lesbian. She once told me at a Christmas gathering when I was 16 that I looked sexy in front of relatives. My mother doesn't drink, but it was as if she was drunk. She would also tell me on occasion, and I was a very late bloomer, that I had the perfect body. Flat-chested with no curves is not what I would consider to be perfect. She refused until I was in tears to buy me a bra or even take me to the doctor when I still had not hit puberty at the age of 15. I have always felt I was behind with my age, not physically but mentally. Even today, I still feel this way at times. I understand this is due to being raised by a narcissist. And you know, Charlene has the same thing. Charlene actually had to steal a bra from her mother because her mother wouldn't let her wear a bra. So something like that with these mothers who are overly sexualized, like Charlene's mother was, wearing fuck me lingerie with her vag hanging out at the dinner table. This is part of the sexually explicit narcissistic mother. I was convinced I was adopted too. My mom would even joke about this since I was the only blonde in the family and the rest of them had dark hair. One night she even told me that yes, I was. I was confused and relieved at the same time. I was 14 and even at that time I thought, I don't belong to this family. She then started laughing and said, "No, Sarah, you're not adopted, but I sure had you believing it." I was told that the reason my parents had my younger brother, 12 years younger, was that they messed up on me and my older brother and they had to make it right with him. My mother was extremely hard on me, so I was a straight A student, state track and soccer too. She also shared very little about sex with me or really anything about my life in general. I had a lot of questions and was confused about things. I asked her once when I was 17 what an orgasm was, since I had heard some girls talking about it at school and figured it was safe to ask my mom. She told me she had no idea and never heard that term before. Liar. My mother told me when I was 15 that she didn't care if I did drugs, but under no circumstance will I have premarital sex. Jesus Christ. I remember sitting there in the car with her saying this and thinking, what the fuck? She then went on to explain that her roommate in college had been with a guy in bed and she had seen him naked and he got too close to her, didn't have sex, and she ended up pregnant. I had to quit school and work in a grocery store. I thought, yeah, right, but the power of a parent and how they can brainwash a child is greater than anyone can imagine. That's insane. Those are your religious freaks for you, man. Sex, 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 sex. But the religious freaks who are so anti-sex are always the fucking biggest whores themselves. Always. I was terrified of guys. I was scared beyond belief. And then I overheard my mom telling some family members that she thought I was a lesbian. Right to the lesbian thing. I told you, your mother is a fucking lesbian. I'm telling you. I was only 14 at the time. I was crushed by this. I was not a lesbian and could not believe my own mother would think that of me. Yet, but because she is. That's what the fucking, why she got her back up when seeing a man naked in college and making up all these stories. It's like crazy lesbian stories. That really affected me for a long time since just because I wasn't dating a guy, my mom thinks I'm a lesbian. I didn't even go to my high school prom, and any extracurricular events, dances, etc. in college were out of the question as well. I thought I was unattractive, fat, lazy, a sloth, as my mother put it, and no one would ever want me. My mother told me on many occasions that no man will want to marry me being at the weight I was. I'm not sure where I found the strength, but I told myself that this just isn't true. I had too many others in my life saying I was beautiful. How they would die for my looks, hair, personality, etc. I think a huge part of this is my mother's jealousy of me. Big part of it. And your mother being a lesbian too. At one point in high school, she offered to pay me $10 for every pound I lost at Weight Watchers. Funny thing was, I was not overweight. And how dare she do that, knowing that a daughter had an eating disorder? I believe to this day, my mom is addicted to diet pills. She keeps them in plastic baggies that fall out of her purse, so I would see them all the time. I can't prove it, but I have confronted her, and she only denies it. Because narcissistic women are always obsessed about their looks and diet pills and shit like that. Telling you your mom's a lesbian. Thinking back to all this, I have 3 children of my own today. Twin teenage boys and a daughter who is 8. What resonates with me over and over is that I would never screw my kids over the way my mom did to me. How could a mother do this to a child? When I was 19 and working in a restaurant, I had messed around with one of the waiters. We were both dressed, but I was still paranoid that I could be pregnant. At 19! Wow! Wow, that's a sheltered life. That is a sheltered, abused life. The night manager looked at me in disbelief when I shared this, since I was so serious about it. I had been in a health class, etc., but my mother's lies overruled this. Because the narcissists will make you believe anything. They make you believe they're God and they know things that you don't know and everybody else is stupid. The manager took me out to breakfast after my shift, and she was the perfect person to put in my life at that time to explain the way things work. During this time, before I told my manager, I really did think I was pregnant and had purchased a pregnancy kit. And I don't mean to laugh, but I mean, it is funny that it's funny and sad at the same time. Of course it was negative, and instead of throwing it away, I hid it in my closet at home since I was living there during summer college break. Don't move on my part. My mother, who went through my closet, found and determined I was out having sex. Even if you were at 19 in college, that's what you're supposed to do. She refused to listen to a word I said. She even denied she had ever said anything about a college roommate. Gaslighting at its best. Skipping a few years ahead, I graduated college in 3 years and played a sport on top of that. I went to a private, strict Presbyterian school, which I really didn't like, and pushed myself with 20 plus hours a semester in summer school. This was due to the fact my mom had graduated in 3 years, so if she could do it, I could as well. A few months after graduating, it came up that my mother did not graduate in 3 years, but rather 4.5. Another over-exaggerated lie by the narcissist. Stop taking the narcissist's word for anything. I was very confused by this, and my mother laughed in my face that I actually thought she had done it in 3 years. I thought, you bitch, I pushed myself for what? Exactly. You missed out on your whole college experience trying to prove something to this narcissistic lesbian. And if you're a lesbian, I don't care. I mean, that's fine. To this day, they still hold it over my head that they paid for college. I had scholarships, I was a resident assistant, which I hated, and worked 24 hours, if not more a week. My eating disorder was out of control. I can count on one hand how many dates I went on and really had no life. My mom confronted me when we were out shopping once and had me cornered and in my face about why I didn't date. I thought I was ugly for starters, and she said, life is not complete unless you're married. I told her that it wasn't the time or place. She wouldn't stop, and she demanded to know when I will date some of these guys who were calling me. I wasn't interested, and she couldn't understand that they were just guy friends. That's because of her religious bullshit, she was a lesbian and couldn't admit it to herself. And then she feared that you were a lesbian. That's why she was trying to hook you up with every guy she could find. Telling you, your mother is in the closet self-hating lesbian. My dad and brothers were there and kept walking past us making faces like it was some joke. I just wanted to die inside since it was a mall area and out in the open. Well, and they'll always try to corner you out in public because they feel safer there that you're not going to respond and fight back. My mom even had the nerve to mail Prozac to me while I was in college and told me maybe this could help, since I had called home crying about how much I had on my plate my freshman year. Plus, I had gone to college not knowing one person, but always had an easy time making friends, but it was still an adjustment. My parents even grounded me during college winter break at age 21 since I told them I didn't want to go to Sunday school, but I agreed to go to church. How do you ground a 21-year-old? I was working until 4 a.m. waitressing over break and wanted a few hours of sleep. I ended up going to Sunday school and church. I decided to leave the next day. I had no car, called a friend, and stayed with her and her family until college started a few weeks later. This is how they had me. They were paying for my college and made sure I knew that. I was basically imprisoned by them. I knew nothing at the time about narcissism and thought it could be just nice and good if I could make it through. I thought it was just normal mother-daughter stuff, but it was so far from what the issue really was. After graduating college, I moved 2 states away from my first job, and that gave me some relief for a while. I met a guy, we were engaged, but I called off the wedding 2 months before due to him lying about his finances and not paying student loans, etc. I was heartbroken, but he was a compulsive liar. My parents convinced me to relocate back home since my contract was up and I was currently unemployed. Well, that was a big mistake. They told me I could stay with them. I did. And 3 days into it, I was told I needed to find a place to live. I was shocked and had no job either, but was looking. Where my parents live, housing isn't cheap, so I had to scramble and basically convince a college friend to be a roommate in a shady area of town. It was not a safe area. I stayed in that city for another year until I met my ex-husband. When they say you move from one narcissistic relationship to another, and the next is always worse, yes, believe those words. My ex-husband is pure evil. I have no other words to describe what I endured under him, and still do to this day. The stalking continues, parental alienation of my children, etc. He makes my mother look like an angel, but at this point I still don't know or understand what narcissism really was. I knew my ex only 2 months before getting married. My parents pushed me to just get married since they didn't agree in living together. Fuck them. You're out. Fuck them. They also told me that I needed to relocate to a state where he lived since he already owned a home and I didn't. Again, I was still doing what they told me, and I really didn't think my mother just wanted me to get married off so she didn't have to deal with me any longer. I was given a wedding shower and ran out of gas on the way there. I arrived on time though and used the bathroom. My mom couldn't find me, and when she did, she gave me a glare and told me I was late. I wasn't. How can you be late for your own shower? Kiss my ass. You're not even supposed to know it's your shower. Somebody's supposed to breathe there, and it's supposed to be a surprise, bridal shower. What a bitch. I wasn't. I asked to come back to my parents' home after the shower. They were there and told me to sit down and that they were very disappointed in that I was late. I said, wait a minute, I wasn't. You know that. I've had enough of this. I left. That evening, my car was broken into and my cell phone was stolen. I did not call my parents to let them know. 2 days later, my mom showed up at my cubicle at work. She snuck through the security and is standing there crying and said, I couldn't get a hold of you. Did you go and elope? I said, what the hell? How did you get in here? Oh my, how embarrassing for me. My mother had called my employer in the past and found out after the fact and told them they weren't treating me right. She continued for years with no knowledge to me. My manager would tell me after the fact she could have cost me my jobs, which was exactly the intent because she was trying to keep you under her control one way or another. At my wedding, I asked my mom if I could use the pearl ring from her mother I had worn a few times in high school for something old. She told me no. What? I can't wear it on my wedding day? So my ex's mother let me wear an old family diamond ring. I was getting ready to walk down the aisle, and my mother comes up to me and says, oh, here you go. You can wear my pearl ring. I looked at her and said, no thanks, I already got something from my future mother-in-law. I wasn't going to let her ruin my day. And you weren't going to let her capitalize on her bullshit on your wedding day and let her try to be like the knight in shining armor. Fuck that shit. My parents wouldn't even let me have alcohol at the wedding. Who are these people? Jesus H. Christ. They agreed we could have a toast, and then the morning of, they said no. So instead, my husband at the time, when arriving at the hotel for the reception, there was no champagne in the room. We started to head up there, and my mom frantically comes over telling us, under no circumstance will you go up to the hotel room, thinking we would go back and have sex and get carried away. My ex laughed at her and told her we would be right back. We had the champagne in private and returned to the reception. It was a sit-down dinner, and my dad made me go around and tell the guests who ordered alcohol they would have to pay for it on their own since it was not covered. I couldn't believe my dad made me do that on my wedding day. He should have turned around and said, no, motherfucker, you go around and tell them. This is my wedding day, not yours. What are you going to do at this point? You should have been like, you don't like it? Leave. Leave, and I don't care if you paid for it or not. Get the fuck out. Then I got the wedding pictures back, and my mom told me they were awful. She pulled them out and started pointing out things about her. LOL, narcissism at its best. My mother also called me out of the blue after being married for 4 months and told me that my husband will cheat on me since she just feels like he's that type. She always told me that marriage is hard and just to get used to that. The abuse I endured in my marriage was verbal, mental, and physical. I confided in my parents about this, and they basically told me to endure it. I was asked if it was really that bad and if I was making it up. My mom even said, your husband cooks and cleans for you, Sarah. There aren't that many men out there that will do that for you, so you should count your blessings. Her response just made me sick. I was hit, kicked, shoved, dragged across the kitchen floor in front of my children, and my mom has the audacity to say that. The mental was right out there, right out of the Lifetime movie, locking me out of the house, having to stay the night in the garage, etc. I became pregnant with all my children while on birth control. I went in for the sonogram at 5 months and found out I was having twins. I was so sick when I was told that, and felt like I could throw up since I knew this wasn't going to work with my now ex-husband. I know I should have been elated, but how in the world would I be able to do this? I survived, but it was beyond difficult. My mom came for 3 days to help when they were 3 months old. I called to tell my parents about being pregnant with twins, and my mom's response was, "Oh, you will be the skinniest you ever have been in your entire life." Wow, not what I was expecting. When I gave birth to the boys, were 2 months early. My mom questioned whether her and my dad should even come to the hospital when I was in labor. My mom stayed for less than 24 hours and told me, "Now you understand our relationship, and tell your husband, this is how it is." I never questioned her. My ex to this day has told my children that their grandparents couldn't even stay when they were in the neonatal ICU. My ex's entire family was there, and not one family member from my side. It was a lonely time for me. The spotlight wasn't on my mom, so she wanted nothing to do with it. Exactly. If she can't be the center of attention, why bother? Financially, it was a lot with twins, and she turned down an offer from some family friends to throw me a shower. I found this out a year later. Funny how the truth comes out. Daycare for the month was more than our mortgage, and my parents knew this and didn't offer a dime. My ex refused to let me stay home, so I was not only getting it from my mother, but from my ex-husband too. Almost like they were in competition with each other at times. Holidays were the worst. The way they would compete, it felt like I got the brunt of it. My mom was nasty with me, saying things like, "That is the worst Christmas I ever had. I never want to come to your house again." And you should have said, like, "Good, you don't have to. Never come back." I should have said, "Okay, great." She was mad that my ex was cooking, having a good time, etc. It was all for show by him, but it was amazing how they would compete. The abuse continued with my ex, and it became so severe that I developed a stuttering problem. I wasn't allowed to speak by my ex, and if I tried, he would tell me to shut up, so I could never seem to get out my thoughts verbally. Unfortunately, he couldn't separate this from work. I was in IT sales at the time, and even though I did a pretty good job of keeping it together and made the money to support the family, that was my ex's plan all along, I knew he couldn't continue with the marriage. Again, I reached out to my family for support with nothing to give. I just don't think they wanted a divorced daughter. I found out a few weeks later I was pregnant again, and my parents weren't happy about this and even said, "When are you going to stop having children with him?" I really didn't have a choice in not sleeping with my ex. The ramifications and threats were too great. That is a story for another day. I just never dreamed I would get pregnant on birth control again. I wouldn't wish it any different. I wouldn't wish it any different since my children are a gift from God, but it was difficult. The way my mom and ex would compete through, though, they both needed that narcissistic supply. My ex called my mom out once by how she treated me, even though he was extremely abusive to me as well. He told her exactly what he thought, and my mom looked at me and said, "Are you going to let him treat us this way? I gave you life." Amazing. I did a lot. I did learn a lot about life from my ex on real life etiquette, etc. My parents taught me nothing about the real world. Even though my ex was abusive, I did gain some worldly experience in being with him. I still have no respect for him though. I was sheltered growing up. Jumping ahead, I filed for divorce on my own. Life was bad, but was only going to get worse. What I hold on to is that I don't have to roll over in the morning anymore and see my ex's face. I now have that freedom of not having to deal with him in person on a daily basis. My mother was less than supportive during the divorce, obviously. My father really did step up to the plate, though. I think it may have hurt their marriage. My father understood how twisted the court system could be, and my mother just didn't and still doesn't get it. I had been in counseling at the time, and that is when I had discovered my mother is a narcissist. That is when the light bulb went off. I started to stand up for myself, and my mother would scream at me on the phone, since they still lived at a distance, and then would not speak to me for weeks on end. Lucky you. She was mad that I wasn't going to do it her way, which could actually have caused more issues. My divorce cost 2 years and ended up going to a 4-day trial. I spent $90K total. My parents helped out with only $1,700 for further psychological testing that my ex was demanding. My parents could have paid the entire thing, no problem. My mom kept saying when I would call in tears every month, when I would receive my attorney bill, that they, mom and dad, were there for me. It did not seem to help besides the $1,700, and I don't want to ever owe them anything. My mom took my daughter for a haircut one and came back to the house saying, okay, you owe me $1,472 for her haircut and you can write me a check if you don't have cash. She is very unsupportive. She'll do anything to keep you in the gutter, in the mud. The night before the trial, my mom turned to me and said, Sarah, you know the best thing about you getting divorced? What's that, Mom? She says, I lost 10 pounds. Oh, and you got your life back. Amazing. I was speechless. The divorce was final and I have primary care, but that is another story. For another day, since the decree is only a piece of paper to my ex. My parents think I am a bad parent. They picked up a pamphlet at the gas station on parenting and gave it to me when they were traveling to my house. Well, that's where you want to take parenting advice, from the Texaco station. I can only laugh about it now. I was told that since I don't have a husband and my mother does, rubbing it in my face, that her and my dad need to interject and help since I am not fully capable. Bullshit. And that's something my narcissistic grandmother Virginia used to do to my aunt, the middle child, Barbara. Always say, well, Barbara, she could never keep a man. She could never keep a man. It's always what I have, what you have. It's always this fucking competition, especially with this narcissistic lesbian. They talk down about my kids and say things, well, only if your boys go to college, we have money set aside. And my daughter at the time, who was sick, saying that she will go as long as will go a long ways in life if she can keep on the right path and out of trouble. What are you saying? Because I'm divorced, I'm trash, and my kids are now trash? Funny, my boys are straight A students, and somehow my parents think they are stupid. No, they don't. They're jealous of them. My kids are bright and artistic, and they are unwilling to see it. My mom thinks the state I live in the people are fat and stupid. Those were her exact words after going to church one Sunday. She was a teacher and always thought where I live is subpar. Where I live, the school district is #1 in the state and top 10 in the nation. I'm not sure where she gets her information. Probably jealous. Obviously jealous. I was also raised to think Catholics and kids of divorced parents were worthless. I was told under no circumstance will I marry one. I did both. My ex was Catholic and his mom had been married 3 times. What I have learned is not that it's not the child's fault that the parents are divorced. Sometimes it's for the best. Many birthdays, my children included, have been ruined by my mom, where I was in tears, but my 40th tops it off. On my 40th birthday, my parents wanted to come up for the weekend. I agreed, even though I was going to be out the night before. My parents don't drink, and they don't know I do. I was out. Well, if you were drinking on birth control, that's probably how you got pregnant, because that's the easiest way to do it. That will negate your birth control. I was out late the night before and worked all day and got home and started dinner. They didn't even offer to take me out for dinner, so I fixed it. My mother started asking if I was going to attend a retirement tea, which was on a Wednesday during school week at 3:20 p.m. I told her that it wouldn't work with the kids in school. I just can't pull them out with the decree. I have to drive 3 hours down and 3 hours back. Wouldn't work. She was irate. This was leading up to this. This was springtime, but over Christmas I started to push back and she told me I had no empathy. She pouted for hours, argued with me all in front of the kids. She told my daughter on Christmas about her mom, who died on Christmas morning and was dead on the living room floor. My daughter was 5 at the time. I told my mom to stop and that wasn't appropriate. She didn't. She told me that she had training in this, Not sure what that means, and not to tell her what she can and can't say to her granddaughter. You should have picked up your kid and just got out of there. I told her that I am her mother and I am asking her to stop. No, you should have been like, I'm telling you to stop. You don't ask a narcissist anything. You tell them. And this is your problem, I think, Sarah, is that all this time you believe their lies, and when you confront them, you ask them where you should have told them. I'm not asking you, I'm telling you. And if you don't like it, get the fuck out. She then got in my face in front of my kids and told me that I always have to win the argument. I don't. I should have punched her right there on the spot, but I walked away. And you should have said, I'm not arguing with you. This isn't up for debate. This is it. Now shut the fuck up or get out. I told her no on the retirement day, but that we could do something on the weekend after. She really lost it. She was in a panic, pacing around my kitchen, saying she wanted her grandchildren there. Funny, she views my children as less, almost like bastard children, since part of them come from my ex, but wants them there for show. Her other grandchildren live on the East Coast and couldn't be there. She was frantic that I was telling her no. I just let her rant and rave. The next morning, eating breakfast at my house, she started asking me about my job. She only had to ask me once before and has no idea what I do. I answered her questions and got up to get some coffee. And she got right in my face and started screaming at me that I was the biggest spoiled brat and bully. And this is where she turns into the victim. The narcissist will always turn into the victim when they don't get their way. This is why you don't ask them, you tell them. Because if you're going to be a bully, then tell them. Because you're going to be a bully either way. So you might as well be firm on what you're telling them. I calmly looked at her and said, you need to get out of my house. You need to leave now. Thank God. She just kept talking, and I told her to leave again. They gathered their belongings, and then she got in my face again and told me that I was a disgrace of a mother, and I needed to get my life right with God. There's God again. What the fuck? I don't even know what that means. Maybe projection, all of this in front of my children. I told her that it's a shame that she would treat her only daughter this way. She tells me it's a shame she is asking them to leave. LOL. She has told me since she was sorry for the miscommunication. It wasn't a miscommunication, but has never really apologized. She also said that I am her daughter and she should have a relationship with me. I know well enough that she will just continue if given another chance. I haven't seen my parents for 3 years, except for a few minutes at my grandpa's funeral. Family reunions have been planned, and I get emails giving me the date without checking with me first. It's during a time either I don't have the kids or I can't go. Then I hear from my family that I don't want anything to do with my parents, and I'm full of excuses. My grandpa passed away, and I was informed about this by text. My mother told everyone I wasn't coming to the funeral. I found this out when I arrived, and my family was surprised to see me. I said maybe 2 words to her. She burned me badly with that stupid retirement date. She had a video made, and the kids and I were not asked to be a part of it. Consider yourself lucky. My brothers and their families were asked. She even included me on the email when she sent it to the entire family. They went to Hawaii, and I was not informed. The rest of the family extended was included on the daily email updates of their trips. But I got a box of chocolates with their Hawaiian picture on the front door for Christmas. I gotta laugh about that one. She also gave me a spatula that was marked down to $2 on clearance. They go to Europe, but yet they have a daughter who's a single mom of 3 who's digging out of $90,000 in maternity fees. I have 3 jobs that I love, but I do know that I come to terms that she will never change. I am willing to do what I can to do on my own. I never want to owe them anything. I now have family members who call me and tell me they can't talk to me since I am choosing not to speak with my mom. I have others who act supportive and then feel they support my mom just as much. And you should tell them all, good, fuck you. Because if you talk to that bitch, I don't want to talk to you. You're not cutting me out. I'm cutting you out. Enjoy the misery, asshole. I really don't know who to trust, and the therapist who has helped me through so much of this is really flaking on me lately. She said I need to determine if my parents were to die tomorrow, would I really have any regrets? It is as if she's pushing me to make amends, but I really don't want to. Do not make amends, okay? Find yourself a new therapist, all right? Because your therapist is probably dragging you along. Listen, if your therapist, it sounds like your therapist wants you to make amends with all this bullshit, then you need to find a new therapist. Because what I think your therapist is doing, trying to set you up, to fuck you up, so if there's more therapy and more money in her pocket, or his pocket, I don't even know. My life is more peaceful this way. I am torn whether I should even continue with counseling since I am looking back. If she had just told me up front I was dealing with a narcissistic ex and mother, I could have saved a year's worth of counseling and a lot of money. I don't want to completely throw her under the bus since she has helped me tremendously, but I feel strange that she is pushing me to have dinner with the kids and my parents in a public place to get a hotel so things get bad, we can just leave. What? I have bills and don't want to waste the time or money to travel to see my parents. My therapist has also suggested that I send out a mass email to all family to let them know the facts of my life. I believe, and my therapist is convinced, that my mom is on a smear campaign against me. I am not sure if this will help it or not. It will not. It will not. Because it'll just be turned against you. Your family members already know there's 43 years of fucking problems. Okay, yet they continue to blame you. The only way you tell your story to anyone in your family is if they come out and ask and say, what's your side of this? What really went on? Then they're going to be more inclined to listen to you. If you send out a mass email, okay, to your family, you are setting yourself up for disaster. And your fucking therapist should know this, okay? They should absolutely know this. This is insane that a therapist, because your therapist might have helped you for a while, but now you're getting to the point where now your therapist could try to make money and fuck up your life some more so she can pat her own pocket. Family members 2 years after my divorce still don't even know I was divorced and thought I was still going through it. Everyone seems to be communicated through my mom. Typical. I have no relationship with one of my brothers since 1999. Refuses to speak to me. Something about how I tried to leave my ex-husband the first time. Took 5 times and I went back and my mom was beside herself that I did, and my brother was there to see what I was putting my mom through. He is 100% on her side. I know she is telling people lies about me. That is disgusting, and she would even do that to her own daughter. I do have this constant guilt that I am keeping my kids from their grandparents. I feel like something bad may happen to me, like karma, and that I am just digging in my heels and being stubborn. My ex has no communication with his parents either, so my children have no grandparents in their life. As for having dinner, it doesn't matter if we're in a public place. My mom has gone off the deep end before and doesn't care about making a scene. Exactly. Family members keep saying that my parents won't be around for long. They are 66 and 67, and that they need to make the first move to make amends. I am happy to have finally cut so many people out of my life, but have not gone full no contact yet. You need to. You need to. What are you going to accomplish by meeting these people? Absolutely nothing, because it's just going to turn it back on you again and drive you further down in a hole. My brother and his wife, who live in the same city as my parents, I was traveling through this past summer with the kids and stopped by his place for breakfast. I told him not to let our parents know, and he assured me they were out of town. I wanted a peaceful vacation with the kids. My brother not only informs my parents, but presses me to have them come over. I told him no, and we left shortly after. Very smart. 2 weeks later, I received an email from my brother telling me that my dad had been taken to the emergency room, and this happened the same day I was in town. My brother then, here it is, the medical guilt, somebody's having a heart attack, somebody's sick. This should tell you everything you need to know about your family. They come to you with an olive branch like they're your friends, but it's only to set you up to draw you back into your mother and father. cut them all out. They're all showing you by their behavior what they're capable of and what their real motivations are. My brother then went on to say that he believes, and my parents believe, this was due to stress. This was due to stress I have put on my parents through keeping them and the kids from them, that I caused the emergency room visit. I went from 0 to 10 when I read that email. I then called my brother and told him exactly what I thought and to stay out of this, and I wanted no more communication with him regarding my parents. I was beyond pissed. My brother just doesn't get it. He gets it, he just doesn't care. And it sounds like your parents got a lot of dough, so that's what they're in for. These people are in for the money. Taking them to Hawaii, a whole family, you know what that costs? They're in it for the money. This last March, I had to go back to court again. My ex-husband was totally out of control. Keeping the children at his place and the parental alienation of my twin boys was just sickening. Instead of my parents being supportive, they were far from that. I think out of depression or just wanting support from someone, I reached out to my parents and brother on one email. Big mistake. My brothers don't really get it and have little to no relationship with me or the children. What my parents did blew me away. I was at work when they told me they were coming up for the weekend. I was working my second job, 35 hours that weekend, and told them no. I don't get what it takes to pay. They don't get what it takes to pay $90,000 in attorney fees, and somehow I think I have all this money and I am somehow lying about my financial situation. I agreed to a phone call instead. My dad did all the talking and my mom said nothing. They were on speakerphone and started telling me that I needed to sign off my parental rights. I was thinking, are you fucking kidding me? I said calmly, I think you're mistaken. Are you talking about custody? They said, no, you need to sign off your parental rights, and then you need to file a modification and file to have you and your daughter move down here. What? I was still confused. See, they're just trying to get at your children, and this is what narcissists always do. Narcissistic grandparents will always do. What? I was still confused. They told me that if the boys are in a car accident or die, yes, they went there. Who's going to pay for that? I should have told them to fuck off and hung up at that point, but I didn't. They went on to say that the boys are 15 and you only have 3 more years and they are horrible to you and disrespectful, so you need to just let them go. I ended up telling them it sounds like I have to do whatever they say in order to have a relationship with my parents. My dad then said, what is that you really need, Sarah? How much? He wanted me to beg for money. I did not. They could pay off all my bills in one check, but instead they traveled the world and rub it in my face. They didn't stop there. They never asked how court turned out, and it was beyond incredible that I was shocked by how the judge ruled in my favor. But instead, they send me a shitty email, and this is a pattern. Before every court appearance, they would, in so many words, either say, what a bad daughter or what a bad parent I am. Right, because they're trying to put you in there in a bad frame of mind so you'll freak out in front of the judge and lose your custody. These are evil fucking people you're dealing with. Talk about kicking me while I was down. My dad sent me this last email telling me that I had no relationship with God. Here we go again. And that is why my life is so bad. And that since I work so much, I have no time for fellowship. What do they know? How dare they? The email basically tore me down and told me I was brainwashed by my ex-husband. And since I didn't like them, he has convinced me not to like them. And that is why I don't bring my kids around. They told me that my life is a downward spiral and I wouldn't be getting any better. Wow, it keeps happening. My sister-in-law graduated from med school. Was I invited? No. I was invited to the 2-hour refreshment party, but yet my mom set out a group test with all my aunts and uncles, cousins, etc. at her graduation. Again, I shouldn't be surprised by this, but I am definitely the black sheep. I sometimes feel like I'm on an island and digging my feet in. I don't date, and all my time is either working or with the kids. The only thing I do for myself is working out, yoga, but it can be lonely at times, especially holidays, when friends are gathering with their family. I hope they have that someday. On a brighter note, it's nice to know that I am not getting it from all sides anymore. It's really a struggle, though, again, with dating or meeting new friends, since I want the stories to stop, and to fill a person in that I'm dating or new friend about my life is somewhat exhausting. I'm sure at some point I won't feel that I have to share all the details. I'm getting there, since I'm sort of sick about talking about it. People just don't seem to understand unless they've been exposed to a narcissist. Exactly. They look at you funny when you say you have little or no relationship with your parents or family. To explain it, it is just too much. That's why I always say my family's dead. Died on Flight 800, TWA Flight 800. It's amazing, though, how things have changed for the better. I can easily pick up if a person has narcissistic tendencies. I am thankful for that and can walk away quickly. I have to say it has been somewhat therapeutic putting this down on paper. Brought back some things I had forgotten about. Do I forgive my mom and dad for everything? You shouldn't. What's to forgive? Not sure. I guess I am holding out hope that I will have a mom I should someday. Not holding my breath on that one. Thanks for your channel. Thanks, Ollie, for your channel. May God bless you and your family for all that you do. Okay, that was a long one, but it was really, really good. First of all, there is no hope. Stop holding out hope. These people are the fucking devil. Okay? Everything they do has been to draw you in and fuck you over. So what are you holding out hope for? I know it's lonely and I know it sucks, but this is the reality. You just got to face it. And most of your problems have been in your life is you believe so much, you just took the narcissist's word for everything and didn't challenge it, to the point where you thought making out with a guy fully clothed in the back of a restaurant would get you knocked up at 19 years old. I mean, that should just tell you everything of how dangerous your family is and why they all need to be completely cut out. Every time one of them has come to you under the guise of help, they have turned around and fucking fucked you over and ran right back. Turned out they were spies for the narcissist. Okay? Spies for the narcissist. Just to turn on you and drive the knife in and to bring you to heel. And you can't have that. Okay? You're doing so much better now. Okay? Get rid of that therapist, because that therapist is setting you up. Work on your relationship with your sons. Okay? Work on getting your finances back. I mean, I respect you for working 3 jobs. I really do. But that's all you can do, because if you continue to trifle with these people, they will eventually put you in the nut house or kill you. So thank you for your story and your contribution. I really appreciate it. Thank you to everybody who's watched this video. It was a long one, but it was a good one. Please leave any comments or advice in the comment section below. And remember, if you want your own video made, you know what to do with the PayPal link in the description box. I'll get the video right out to you. This is Ollie Matthews. Thank you for watching. See you all again soon.